Hello, welcome to another episode of Clues, Cues and Reviews, and today we're talking about the Seven Deadly Sins, Chapter 2 and 1. A farewell, a goodbye, whatever you want to translate it as. So actually a really decent chapter, relatively simplistic, focused on one key thing, which actually is a good thing in some cases, because sometimes we got to do so many different scenes and so many things are going on. It's kind of like this was the key focus, and I like that. So without further ado, let's get into this review. So, the chapter as a whole, like I said in my introduction, was actually really good because it focused on Gowther. And I think that's important because when you think about the story so far, we know a little bit more about Meliodas. We've kind of been hinted a little bit of Merlin, though that's still a mystery. We know a little bit about Escanor. We know loads now about Elizabeth, Ban, King, people like that. We're finding more about as we go along. So, as the story progresses, we're adding these layers to those characters, but one that was really empty and shrouded in mystery, other than Merlin and Meliodas, was Gowther. We know nothing about him other than him being a puppet. So this is actually a really good thing, and I'm glad, although I don't like to brag, that I was partially right about him and being more than one person. So, I'll explain all that in a second. Let's kind of go over the chapter and what this really means. Ultimately, Gowther delays Dolo and Glashina, aka Diana and King. Now, he doesn't do this because he wants to let out demons. He has an ulterior motive, so it's something for himself, in which he later even says, I don't really care about the war. So he doesn't have any grudges against the humankind, the fairy kind, the goddesses, blah 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 blah. He's not bothered. All he cares about is his freedom. Now, in this whole conversation, there's obviously points of information that Dolo and Glashina know, aka Diana and King, that Gowther doesn't know because they're from the future technically in terms of mental capacity because they're in their bodies. With that being said, though, they're telling him things that he hasn't happened yet, so he's like, oh, interesting. And they're like, wait, he took our memories. He goes, give me my memories back. And he's like, I have no idea what you're talking about. So that kind of interaction was funny because you could see a rift of knowledge there. I don't know how this impacts or affects Gowther moving forward, but that was key. Then we see in between while all this is going on that essentially the battling is raging. The humans are effectively Raven's crew is basically killing all the well, I wouldn't say angels because there wasn't many there, but I would say the fairies and the actual giants are basically getting killed off. While all this is going on happening, Nerobasta's like, why isn't anybody coming? Because everyone else is basically being held back. With that being said, though, Meliscula essentially makes a realization that the portal that she's opening isn't just to hell or the demon world, it's to the demon prison. And then as she begins to realize that, a hand comes out, grabs her mouth. And then we get to see the real Gowther. So, do you know how I said there's possibly going to be two parts missing, the missing heart, love and all that stuff? We find out why. So we knew Gowther was a doll, but we didn't know why he was a doll. We don't know why he hasn't got a heart, why he doesn't have feelings, why he doesn't get anything of that. We have a little bit more in that area now. So what we found out is Gowther, the Selfless, was basically given the commandment and put away in prison, losing his freedom for 500 years before the war started. So 3,500 years before the current timeline. To deal with that, Gowther created a doll so he could communicate with the world, the human world. In this chapter, he loses that ability. He says, oh, this is my way of saying goodbye. With that being said, this is possibly why this version of Gowther is, the puppet is basically non-really conscious, don't know what's going on, and maybe the living doll is just kind of just living through life without any purpose. And I believe because he tried to leave the demon prison without the permission of the demon king, part of his, I guess, punishment would have been the idea that he loses his title or that kind of thing, and he's put back into prison, and that's only going to be relinquished when Fraudrin dies. With that being the case, this may have been something that he planned for a long time and possibly knew about, and when Fraudrin died, that's why the consciousness came back. The real consciousness came back to Gowther, because the consciousness was probably taken away, or the ability was taken away as punishment because he tried leaving prison in hell without permission. With that being the case, now we know in real time that basically Gowther's kind of consciousness is back, but it's the original consciousness from 3,000 years ago, which would also lead potentially in him now trying to bring his real body back. So bearing in mind, remember how I was talking about in previous chapters, I mentioned this quite a few times over my last few chapters and quite a while back as well, that there's a bit of a disparity in terms of power when it comes to the other 7 deadly sins. Now, Meliodas' power is like close to where he was before. He's nearly there, and his demon force probably well over 100,000. We know about Escanor's power being even greater maybe, and at least above 60,000. We know Merlin's power is kind of a fake, because she's a lot more powerful than she's let on, and she's a survivor from a race of demons, I'm assuming, or something that's really important, that basically made the demons shudder. And so her power is probably a lot greater than she's being let out. Same thing with, if you look at Dolo and Glashina's inhabitants, King and Diana, there's a power difference there, even though they're the same species. So technically, if you look at Dolo and Glashina, they're like the 60,000s. I'm assuming that's, or 50,000s even, but I'm assuming that's where King and Diana is going to eventually get to in terms of power. The only people that are really remaining is Ban the Undead and Gowther, which I believe when he gets his real body, he's going to be a lot closer to that as well. Bearing in mind, he's only like 2,000-3,000 now in real, like in doll form, I guess. So with that being the case, this is going to be a way for him to power him up, and then eventually when basically Ban gets his magical sacred item back, he'll also power up, and hopefully we can take on the next big bad. With that being said, really short and straight to the point chapter. He says bye at the end when he's probably going to lose his consciousness, and then hopefully we're going to find out very soon what happens next. That is my review. Hopefully you liked it. I hope you liked the chapter. I know it came out a few days ago, but I only had a chance to do it now. Like, comment, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Other channels linked in the description below if you want to subscribe to that for movies, TV shows, sports, MMA, boxing, that kind of thing. It's all there. It's called Cinematics. Similar kind of format, as you know. Also, my Twitter channel link is there as well, so feel free to follow if you are on Twitter. As always, like, comment, share, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.